Now, ladies and gentlemen, Counter-Strike 2 was revealed to the world on September 27th, 2023. With it now being November, it's officially been out for over a month. That being said, just 1 week after the game launched, I made my 1 week in review. We talked about the game's biggest issues and the community's biggest critiques, such as game stability when it comes to performance, and while fresh off CSGO, we discussed disappointment from the lack of features, maps, and modes from an 11-year-old game, that being CSGO. At this very moment, CS2 is far from perfect, but not as unplayable as some people make it out to be. 20% of the player base has left in this past month, and is only rising. Today's video is my 1 month in review of Counter-Strike 2. We'll discuss the current problems at hand, developer support, as well as CS2 from different perspectives of players. Now, today's video sponsor is SkinsMonkey. SkinsMonkey is a buying and trading marketplace for your CS items. It makes a safe and easy way to trade out your inventory for something new. By using my code MANDO, you can get a deposit bonus of 35% alongside a free $5 in your first trade, with a max bonus if you spend $100 or more. With a large variety of skins, deposit options, alongside daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways, they're doing a great job rivaling other competition. If interested, it'll be at the top of the link in the description below. Now, firstly, for today's video, I want to start out with a question. Has the game gotten better from CS2's initial release? The answer is yes and no, but mostly yes. I know it's confusing. Now, day and even week 1 of CS2 was pretty shaky. Servers were down, which was somewhat to be expected with how many people were trying to play the game for the first time, that being fresh off CSGO, or maybe first time for the Counter-Strike franchise. Now, lag was atrocious. Valve quickly fixed this and made demos unavailable, and to this day, you can still not watch them, which kinda sucks. Now, what do I mean by lag? I mean lag on the server, connection to the server, but also subtick. That leads us into the new subtick system. This has been one of, if not the most criticized addition / change to CS2. Counter-Strike 2 at this very moment is essentially hard-coded to 64 tick. Love or hate it, I believe it's here to stay. Now, players hating the subtick system isn't just because the game is hard-coded to 64 tick. They also extremely dislike it because Valve got rid of the ability to play or host 128 tick servers, so services like Faceit somewhat become pointless. But as of now, it's still got a place. Premier currently inside CS2 isn't horrible, but it's playable. Faceit at this very moment still is a better anti-cheat, love or hate it, and servers play so much better. So as I feel time goes on, I can only hope that CS2 feels somewhat similar to something like Faceit. Now, what was Valve's reasoning for removing this, not upgrading all the servers to 128 tick? In my opinion, based off a recent article with PC Gamer, they mentioned here and there that they wanted everyone to play on the same server, and same quality of server, not any more division amongst players. With Premier being as popular as it is, yes, it has problems, but is by far Counter-Strike's best ranking system and service by Valve, and with time, it'll only get better. And while this is one of CSGO's biggest problems, coming off from watching a major or just an average pro game and seeing movement, nade lineups, alongside everything else, had the casual community, which is the biggest part of CS, that was just a different page. This way, everyone is connected. You can now watch a pro game, mimic the movement, or copy some nades some of these pro players use. Now, after 1 month of playing the game, that being on Faceit but also Premier, was this the right call? The ideas of having players connected? Yes. But according to Valve, the subtick system is just better overall.
So what you see is what you get.
But one thing we all know, at least right now, is that that's simply not true. Maybe over time with overhauls and tweaks. In my opinion, 128 tick servers just seem like the right call from the start. Based off Valve's innovation in game creation, and especially how much money they make just off CSGO cases alone, over time I could see this being a better and possibly a great alternative, or even better end result of 128 tick. With it being now 1 month, have things gotten dry or boring? For some, they will say yes. And this part of the commentary is where it becomes somewhat divisive, but the hard truth. Fact of the matter is that new content for Counter-Strike, yes, should have been added to the launch of CS2. New maps, features, and modes, alongside everything else from CSGO, should have been here too. That's no questions asked. Now, as it goes for DLC, or what most CS players call an operation, that isn't necessarily what makes a Counter-Strike game amazing. People love CS for the core fundamentals that don't change, such as movement, weapons, learning to manipulate certain points in certain maps, and just maps as a whole. Now, I'm not saying we don't want an operation, nor deserve it. I'm just stating why Valve may be doing this or thinking of it, and that fat profit says otherwise. Now let's talk about CS2's declining player count. It's not a question if players have left the game. They have, according to data and the overall player count. As of recording, the total loss is 20% of the player base from September, and it's also only growing. And what was some of the reasoning? In my opinion, players left CS2 because it didn't meet their expectations, missing loads of maps, modes, and features such as the workshop from CSGO, which yes, is a great reason. Now, other things that some people have pointed out, some of the counting players could have been bots, that being for skins or accounts trying to gain access to limited tests, because those did sell on eBay for a decent price tag. But I think the overall biggest reason here is for many new or even returning players from CSGO, they simply just couldn't run the game. The bare minimum requirements that Valve had, I'm not sure if they're wrong, but they just don't seem right. Yes, everyone at some point, whether they're a CS player or not, needs to upgrade and get with the times. But if someone is barely getting over 200 to 300 FPS with an RTX 3080, it's clear that the game needs to be more optimized. Now, next up, I want to briefly touch on skins. This segment actually wasn't added until the post-edit. After rewatching the video, I noticed something was missing. Now, whether you love or hate them, skins, but most importantly, the skins community is a big part of Counter-Strike today. And now I'm not here to talk about the market, I'm here to talk about skins inside Counter-Strike 2, where Gaben first gave birth to them in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and after a couple years of Valve porting them over to CS2, here we are right now. And one of CS2's biggest complaints when it comes to skins is some of them don't look close or similar to CSGO, or they got upgraded so much inside CS2 they don't look anywhere near to the original version, and some are just straight up messed up. That goes with stickers, skins, gloves, knives, and really any tradable item. And most some reasoning for that. After reading a couple different articles, getting some opinions from esports journalists, I've come to a conclusion on a couple things. Now, number one, while making Counter-Strike 2 on the Source 2 engine, Valve couldn't just copy and paste every tradable item onto CS2. I'm not sure exactly how they did it because I don't work there, nor a game developer, but from the sounds of it, they had to individually port every single skin or sticker over. And number two is based on a recent PC Gamer article, Valve stated that their main priority is fixing the game, that being the core game itself and not skins. But they also mentioned not adding any new cases or operations that would feature new skins, which that's led to a debate even now. If Valve were to release an operation or a brand new case, it would make a lot of people happy, but it would also be very controversial. If they launched CS2 alongside a brand new case or operation, or maybe even a couple months in, players would be happy for the first 5 minutes and then come to realize it wasn't that good of an idea. With all the new skins coming in, those could be or maybe not be completely broken, or maybe just solid. The people getting those new skins would be very happy, and with a lot of the current and outstanding players from CSGO now in CS2, they have their skins, right? It doesn't matter if you have $10 or $500. If those people's skins aren't fixed or up to par with CSGO, or just looking better on the Source 2 engine, that's somewhat unfair and a greedy move by Valve. And that kind of leads us to where we are right now. Things aren't as broken as they were at launch when it comes to skins, but it still has some way to go. I think we could see the very first case at the end of 2023 or the first month or two of 2024. As it goes for an operation or new content being added, such as a change to the map pool, it's debatable, but I think we'll see it sometime after the Copenhagen Major in 2024, which yes is some ways away, but at that point the game will be pretty good. Bugs won't be non-existent, but the game will be up to par with where we left off in CSGO. And our last point is one of CS2's biggest criticisms, and that's that they offered no new content. Now, like I said earlier on what Valve thinks of adding new content, like maps inside of CS2, you may think this is me trying to help out with the high expectations or put a band-aid on the wound. This is from Valve's perspective of the noob. This may be returning players from CSGO or a new player entirely. This, in my opinion, was who Valve was targeting. With roughly 5% or less of the CS player base being able to play the limited test during its duration, most players could only watch from their screen afar, and Valve was targeting just them, that being the majority of the player base who didn't play during the limited test. Imagine booting up CS2 for the very first time and seeing all the new menus and things the game has to offer, but also on top of that a battle pass, an operation, 2 new maps, and countless skins. It would be a sensory overload for most people, or what most people call overstimulation, but most importantly it would only show that Valve is in it for the money. The reason Valve fully released CS2 is understandable. Yes, the game could have and maybe should have been in beta a while longer, but for the best and fastest way to fix the game or make it on par with CSGO is have everyone play it at once to report more bugs and optimize their systems. If you think of it like that, then yes, this game being CS2 is new content. Now we could spend endless hours talking about how bad CS2's release was, didn't live up to the expectations, how bad the engine is, or the sub-tick system, but here it is. CSGO is gone and it's not coming back. Let's report simple bugs or needed fixes, and most importantly be vocal to Valve and make CS2 the best game we can. And of course you can't discuss Counter-Strike matchmaking without bringing up the topic of an anti-cheat. As it goes for myself and some of my friends I've played with firsthand over the course of this past month, we've maybe only run into a total of 5 to possibly 10 cheaters, which may sound like a lot, but based off of how much I've played, it's actually not too bad, at least compared to CSGO. And that's a big maybe for those 10 possible cheaters. And well, what do I mean by that? Let's go back to the beginning of the video where we talked about the sub-tick system. With it being one of the biggest complaints inside CS, it's not just because movement feels weird or it feels clunky. With the introduction of the sub-tick system, it's also brought a handful of problems, mainly for this discussion, that being Peeker's advantage. If you've played CS2 over the past month, maybe in the limited test, you may run into an instance where you're hiding behind a wall but someone one-taps you. If someone were to preview and go back to the demo, which currently you can't, you'll be out in the open when on your screen you're behind the wall. And the same thing goes with the enemy. Now, out of how many times that happens per game, we're unsure, but I believe it happens enough where people think the other person or someone on the other team thinks you're cheating. Another feature Valve introduced with the introduction to CS2 is VAC Live. Is based off the title, it does exactly that, or so we thought. If you're caught cheating inside Counter-Strike 2, you are banned instantly, and supposedly the game ends. I haven't seen this firsthand yet, and I play a decent amount of CS Premier, where this would primarily probably happen. Now, I can't talk for everybody, but from what I've played and heard from other people in the community, from Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and just all across the internet, I think a lot of people's cheating accusations are from the sub-tick system and Peeker's advantage, and the other handful of problems that thing comes with. Some players at this current time think Valve is working on a brand new system that is not necessarily related to VAC, but still has the name. VAC, it seems to be right now, is just an outdated system. A bandwave of players, yes, is nice, but has been kind of outdated for the past 5 or so years. The problem is, with Counter-Strike being free to play, is these people will just create new accounts, and with being able to access and buy Prime or buy an account with Prime for very cheap, it does next to nothing. Those same people are just going to keep creating accounts. The only way to really prevent this is getting a better anti-cheat, and that would was one of my biggest complaints inside CSGO. With a more intrusive anti-cheat and changes to the sub-tick system, I think with some time, this game will be pretty fun to play. Now, to end my 1 month in review of Counter-Strike 2, what are my final thoughts of CS2's release and at this very moment? At this point, my honeymoon phase hasn't necessarily ended, but I can now see the final product without rose-tinted glasses, which is hard because a game like Counter-Strike 2, its final release wasn't September 27th. It's endless. That's also a huge problem with live service games in the modern day gaming industry. Most games that release that get updates weekly are not really on par with the standard release 5 years ago until maybe a year or two after its release, if that makes any sense to you. As a returning player from CSGO, CS2 right now is pretty fun. Shaky, but fun. Some things don't work, but I see its potential. The new Premier mode has already had countless fixes and is fine for the time being. Definitely an upgrade compared to CSGO's competitive. That's another thing we have to look at as well. Valve's communication and also ability to update the game. People like to forget that CSGO went months on end with sometimes little to no updates. Now, at some point, CSGO didn't really need any fixes, but some of the time it did. And for the first 2 weeks, getting 2 updates a day every day was pretty awesome to see. Now, getting 1 to 2 a week that are very detailed blog posts for what they actually changed or added to the game is a very big positive. But the most important part is Valve's overall communication. In this recent article with PC Gamer, they stated that they learned from their mistakes inside CSGO by not listening to the community or communicating with us. And recently, they've done exactly that by communicating with us, the community. Now, for map overhauls, I wish things like Mirage saw an updated version like Inferno. That also goes for all the maps, modes, and features from CSGO that currently aren't present inside CS2. Going into Counter-Strike 2 as a new player can be over and also underwhelming. The game currently on most PCs doesn't run amazing, but I think Premier Mode, what it is right now, is a great start for a new player in understanding what Counter-Strike is. Now let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. Are you enjoying Counter-Strike 2? Did it live up to your expectations? Aside from bugs and performance problems, do you like the game? I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay positive, stay sexy. I'm out, guys. Peace.